Welcome to our Where's the Beef video series. I'm Tiffany Lashman, Extension Agricultural Law Specialist with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension. We're excited to bring you this series of videos related to direct beef sales. Funding for this project was provided by the Southern Risk Management Education Center. As part of that funding, we really would appreciate you taking the time to fill out our evaluation. We'll have a link to the evaluation in the notes below. We'll also have a link and a QR code available at the beginning, middle, and end of each video. In order to fill out our grant reports and complete our grant funding, we really need results from these evaluations. So we are pleading with you, if you watch these videos, please take time to fill out the very quick, very short evaluation. Thank you, and we hope you enjoy our Where's the Beef video series.
Kimberly Ratcliff. I am owner of Ratcliff Premium Meats and Caney Creek Ranch.
Awesome. So when did y'all get started? I know it's been a long process.
Yes, it's been such a long process. It really started with my dad. He started it like literally before I was born. He bought his first operation. Yeah, so I'm in my 40s, so it's 40 plus years that he's had it. And then when he retired, he just wanted to kind of expand. And he expanded from there. And I realized that in order to keep this generational, I needed to come home. So I quit my job back in New York City and I came home. And from there, I've just been expanding it to really figure out how to make it generational and how to get my family involved. So when I finally was working in New York City when my dad bought the operation we're on right now. And I was really, really frustrated having these daily conversations with my dad. And my dad literally knew into having thousands of animals. If you had 20 of them, going from 20 to thousands is a huge change in every aspect of the industry. And I would just hear, oh, the price of this and the price of that, and just the long days that he had and everything you hear that goes along with the ranching industry. And I would hear that on a daily basis. And that disconnect drove me home. So I literally decided one day I'm going to quit. But I had to make a plan. So in that process, I quit and got accepted into Texas Christian University Ranch Management Program. And I tell people that program really changed my life. That really gave me the foundation I needed to come home and make those decisions and decide what direction the ranch should go into. And when I did come home, I decided the direction was to have multiple enterprises. In order for us to really be successful, you have to have income coming in every month. I felt like the calf income was coming in every 9 to 10 to 12 months. And that was not sustainable. So I tried to see what we could do to make multiple incomes. So we ended up going into the sprig industry. At one point, we were selling hay to the zoo. We would custom bale. We would raise other people's cattle. And then we would also partner with producers locally and sell our cattle together. And that's really how the meat company started. We sell our cattle together, and some of the producers would be like, can you keep one and feed out for me? Can you keep this one and feed out for me? So I started keeping animals for other producers and myself and feeding out for themselves. And then I was like, why am I feeding out for other people when I could feed out for more than just the people here in this community? And that's really how Ratcliff Premium Meats started. It started from there, and it also started from my brothers. My brothers, I would feed out, and I would have tons of feed here, tons of meat here. And before you know it, they were giving it away. And I said, enough giving it away. We were going to partner and make a business together. And from them giving it away, we ended up making money off of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What all do you sell at your meat business?
Our main is beef. And a lot of the beef come from either our operation, which we have Angus cross cattle here, or I buy local cattle here. I try my best to buy everything local here. Our feed, our cattle, everything from here locally. So we have beef, and then I also have lamb, I have chicken, I have pork, and I have goat. All those are grown right here in the community. So I actually hire local producers to grow all those products for me too. But here on this operation, I solely concentrate on raising beef cattle. We sell it here. We sell it here on the market. We sell it online. We sell it at the farmer's market in Frisco, Texas. And then I have some contracts with the local food banks here, so Houston Food Bank and some other local food banks. So we supply weekly meat to the food banks and some local restaurants.
That's awesome. Yeah. All right, so when you got into this, a lot of the producers that we talk to, like slaughter facility is a big
Right.
question for them. So any tips you have on finding a facility,
Yes.
choosing between which one you should go
Yeah,
to?
the slaughter facility is the hardest part of this industry. I've probably gone through like 7 different facilities. Twofold. One is availability. I started this business really when I first left TC Ranch Management, but I really didn't go full blown until 2016. So it was right before that whole COVID situation, and I was able to get in one facility on a weekly basis. But I increased during COVID, so it was hard for us to really find another facility. So I went searching, and I ended up finding a butcher. So what I ended up doing is we have facilities that actually harvest our cattle, and then I have a dedicated butcher that actually cuts up my meat. So it makes it much easier for me to process. So I'm at the point I process 7 to 10 a week now. So I'm able to process that many, and then my butcher is able to custom cut them up for me. And I have 3 dedicated days with just that butcher to cut up just my meat. So I tell people there's a lot of companies out there that are popping up that just do cutting. So sometimes if you can partner with a harvest facility and then have them transport your carcasses to that butcher facility, it's working out really well.
That's awesome. Whenever you're working to get the slaughter facility, how far ahead did you have to get your name on the calendar?
It was literally, I would go, January would be like the day that they would start, and I would go the whole year out, at least one entire year.
Okay.
Now it's really flexible with my butcher. I'm able to really just be flexible. Some days I do 5, some days I'll do 7, some weeks I'll do 10, and it all depends. So the good thing about me, so I do process a lot of cattle, but I'm also helping out other branded beef products. So they're asking me to help fulfill some orders they can't fill.
Awesome.
So now I'm expanding, and I'm like, we all have the same cattle. I'm feeding them the same way. We all have the same really story. So it's no different. So I'm actually helping those that will call me and be like, oh, I need supply. And I'm helping them fulfill their orders.
That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about marketing.
Yes.
I know you were talking earlier, you have a social media team that helps you.
So it's
all of the things?
twofold. It's
Okay.
twofold. So I have a group that helps me kind of outline my mission. So my mission is really about the ranch, about bringing people to the ranch, about connecting urban to rural. So having that mission, they kind of help develop that mission. Then my marketing team, website development. So I relaunched. So previously we were called Farm to Freezer Meat Company, but due to a lot of media coverage that our family's having, everything's Meet the Ratcliffs or the Ratcliffs this or the Ratcliffs. So I decided to change our names to Ratcliff Premium Meats because it just made sense and it made the story easier to tell than having Farm to Freezer. So our marketing team was helping with that transition on how we transition from there and tell our family story through meat. I tell them family story through meat because there's so many branded beef products out there, and I believe we're all good. It really is the story that the consumer wants to have, that's where that's going to gravitate them to
Yes.
your product.
It's all about the story. I
Yep.
think. Okay, so how did you do it before you had your marketing team? Were you
Oh.
the one that was behind the computer screen,
Correct.
posting and doing all this stuff?
So before the whole marketing team, it was all me. But I tell people, I look at the return on investment for marketing teams, and that's the key thing. You have to realize I have a budget, and I told the marketing team I can't go over this many hours a month. And whatever I can accomplish during that month is what we're going to do. But I can really tell the return on investment. And that's one thing I told my marketing team is when you do get a marketing company, make them give you your return on your investment.
So is it just social media? Have you done any print, word of mouth? Obviously word of mouth, right? Radio, any of that?
I haven't done radio, but I've done TV shows. I've done documentaries. I've done something with John Deere. We did a little series with John Deere. I did something with Merck Animal Health. So I've done quite a bit of media out there that's kind of gravitated people to the ranch. And the one thing I did with the social media is I also just constantly, every so often, I'll go out and I'll film for 5-6 days. And that's enough content to do a lot. And then weekly I do cooking demos. So you have to constantly be connected. You have to set aside time to say, this is what I'm going to do on a weekly basis. Because social media, YouTube, not everyone has social media, so you also have to do print, I did something in Cowgirl magazine, so print is important. I'm trying to write articles. Writing articles about your family, about your meat, about your sustainability can reach other avenues. So you have multiple avenues you really have to market to.
How do you make sure your product is different from the rest of them? I know that you're doing things a little bit differently, which I think is pretty cool. But I guess initially getting started, and I think it goes back to telling your story.
Right.
But is there anything specific that you did?
So for me, for Ratcliff Premium Meat, our story's, I think, unique, and it's different from anyone else's story. Onefold is where we're sitting here has the highest population of minority producers in the United States. And when I told the story about me leaving the ranch and leaving Wall Street and coming back home. When I came back home, a lot of these producers came to me and said, how am I going to get my family to do what your family's doing? And I told them, you have to find that connection. We have to find that passion. So I'm trying to find that passion with my community. So my thing is I buy their cattle that meet my specs. And then I'm working with my private butcher, and that's why I love working with my private butcher. I have an ID number on all my meat. So now I'm telling that rancher story, and now the kids are getting excited to really learn, oh, my meat's on this plate. So somehow that is like my uniqueness that I'm trying to bring to consumers.
Kimberly, I know you were with 100 Ranchers before. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing now?
Yeah, so I was with 100 Ranchers, but this Ratcliff Premium Meat Company has really taken a lot of my time. So I've kind of had to alleviate that job, and I kind of made a nonprofit connected to Ratcliff Premium Meats, mainly because we all know the meat industry has fights we have to fight and battles we have to battle. Sometimes you need a nonprofit connected to you to help fight those battles. And that's what Ratcliff Community-Based Organization is about. It's helping fight the battles that we need on a continuous basis that need to be separate from your actual meat company, and a nonprofit can kind of fight those battles for you. So I'm excited to have that connection now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Did you realize how much you're going to need to educate the public while you were, going off in this endeavor too?
I did not. I think the main thing that I realized with education is being in the farmer's market. I think the farmer's market is one of the best ways to start the education. But also I realized that I get daily questions. For example, I just did a speaking engagement about 2 weeks ago. And I had a question from someone in the audience talking about, how are they slaughtered? Are they slaughtered humanely? And I had to say, let me sit back and tell you how they're raised. We got to start with how they're raised first and talk about how we raise them, and it continues to the whole system. So we're always going to get those questions, but we always have to realize we got to tell them the whole story behind one little comment that they're talking about, because they get stuck on one aspect of the industry, but the industry as a whole is a great industry, and they need to understand that every step of the process, we take care of our animals, even in the slaughtering process. So I didn't want to start with the slaughtering side. I want to start with the baby calf that's born on the ground, that's active, that gets up and runs to the end process.
That's great. I like that.
Yeah.
Have you had to educate them on the cuts of meat that they're ordering and how to cook them? I know you
Yes.
said you do cooking demos, so I feel like that's kind of some of your education too.
So yes, education on the meat side is very important. The good thing is having a private butcher, again, that actually works with cuts. I'm getting these cuts that aren't normal, that they normally are used to. The hanger cut, the ranch steak, the Denver cut. I do a lot of chuck eyes. And a lot of times I do comparisons of them. I tell them the ribeye, people don't want to spend the money on the ribeye, but they'll spend a chuck eye. I call it the poor man's ribeye. I always make these comparisons and I always do these cooking demos, and they love it. So a lot of times for me, there's two phases. There's those that want to spend a lot of money on ribeyes and all these premium cuts, and those that want to spend money on convertible cuts. So I try to do conversation about those comparisons, and then I try to do just fun little, unique ways of cooking. I'm working right now with a coffee provider. They have all these grinds left over from their coffee, so we're making a seasoning. So we're playing around on video, playing around with coffee seasonings and what we can put in it. And then when we launch it, they're going to be excited about seeing it. So it's one of those, you have to incorporate them in your R&D, every aspect of it, because they love that part. They love to be in every aspect of your business growing, and I'm growing.
Right.
So including them makes them feel like they're part of that meat.
Back in the beginning, how did you determine like what to charge for your product?
So that's where ranch management came in, when we had to do our break-even point. So it starts with a break-even, and a lot of people use the market itself. I try not to, because the market could be good, it could be bad compared to you. So I try not to use whatever the current market is, even though I keep it there as a point, sliding point. But I really do take what's in my cost daily. We are located here where we're not in the corn belt, we're not in the feed belt, so we rely on silage a lot for our products. So believe it or not, the cost is probably a little less for me because I'm relying on a source that we're producing here. And then I do supplement with grain and all that. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's higher for us. So it's twofold. So I use that as my base, use all my inputs as a price. And then the good thing is that my butcher actually, because I use a Privalin, does a percentage of each cut. He gives me a sheet every week that shows me percentage of each cut and how much percentage it is, and I plug it into a spreadsheet.
Okay.
So all that helped.
Is there a specific budgeting tool or software that you use, or is it just a regular?
It's just a regular
that you
spreadsheet.
have? And you do that all yourself. You
Yes.
don't have, okay.
No.
I guess when you first started, is what you're doing now the same? Your strategy as far as it comes to price setting?
No,
A little-
because at first I was just, throwing it in the wind.
Right.
Oh, you charging $30? I'm charging $30.
I think it's interesting listening to the producers and stuff. I think that's what most of them do at first. They kind of scope out what everybody's charging. And
Right.
Then they kind of figure it out, I think,
Right.
as they go.
Right, and I think that's the thing. You just get into business, you don't know what to do, and then you slowly start every month implementing different aspects of your business. So, absolutely.
Okay, so one big thing that people have asked about is inventory management.
Oh gosh.
So were there any issues for you originally when you're trying to manage this? We'll show the cooler here in a little bit, but like storage wise, and when you ship stuff, do you get leftover with a lot of people have ground meat left over in their
Right,
boxes and
absolutely. So inventory is interesting. So I do inventory by weight, not by cuts. So every ribeyes, we have a crate and we weigh that crate because every ribeye weighs differently. So all of our inventory is by weight, and as it goes out, the weight goes out. So that's really easy for us to do, and I have this separate little inventory system that actually is on the back end of my website, which is convenient for me. And as far as extra cuts, the beautiful thing is I have the food bank contract. So they take about 30,000 pounds from me 35 to a whole truckload every other week.
Wow. So if you have extra,
So I send all my
you
extra
can send it.
ground beef to the food bank with the contract I have.
That's awesome.
So it's been, at first it was hard. I was actually giving it to local food banks here and then just getting the tax write-off from the local food banks here. But now I'm able to make money off of it by selling it to the food banks. And then on top of that, I'm working with a couple of restaurants in Dallas that have hamburger patties. And I'm also working with, this is the exciting part, so my story of working with minority producers here in Texas, I've had an opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. and work with a restaurant called Ben's Chili Bowl. So Ben's Chili Bowl is a historically black-owned restaurant that every president, Martin Luther King was there. Like, that's how historical they are. So we're working on telling our story together.
That's awesome.
So they're taking hamburger patties and ground meat also for their chili and for their hamburgers, and we're telling our story together.
I love that.
Yes, so that my thing is I'm trying to work with restaurants that can continue telling our stories, because it's hard for us to get into markets.
Right.
But you have to find your story that fits a market.
You have to find a market that aligns with your story, right? If you go to, say a restaurant, a chain restaurant,
Right.
they're not going to
No.
tell your story like you would want your story.
And they probably won't, the story will help you with your price point too a little bit, because my price point might be slightly higher, but because they're able to, we're doing media off of it, we have we're possibly working with a news outlet to tell our story. With that coming, then people are going to come and maybe pay that 2 or 3 cents more
Right.
for that product.
And I think they know where it's coming from too. I
Yeah.
think that helps.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned you can do inventory on the back end of your website. So what kind of software program are you using? Do you use Shopify? Do you use
No, my website team is building my own
Okay.
background. So it's Shopify limits you. It limits on what you can, and I didn't realize that until I started building my own platform.
Okay.
So the beautiful thing about the website is I also, a lot of us are subscription based also when we're in this line of business. We want these monthly people coming in every month. So I have changed it whereby on the website, they can build their own subscription.
Oh, that's great.
So they actually can click on a cow and click on a T-bone, click on this, click on that, and say, I want this every month, every 2 months, every 6 months.
Okay.
So in the back end of the website, it allows that to happen.
So it's not even like a box. They're just going in, like you don't have a box already set up. They're going in and creating their own custom order, whatever it may be, and they get that.
So you do have to have your ground beef and all that still with it, but all the other cuts, they're building themselves.
So it's like a custom box basically, and then but it comes with like X, Y, and Z that's standard in the box, and you can add whichever steak cuts or.
And then you can ask for it every month, every other month, every 6 months, once a month. So on the back end, you can do it all yourself.
Yeah. I like that. That's great.
Yeah.
So when it comes to that, how do you do your shipping?
So shipping, I do use a UPS shipping company, and I do put, right now, I have to put the shipping amount because I'm shipping all over the United States. So I have to put that amount, but I am working with UPS right now. You really have to have so much go out every week to really get a better discount. But right now I'm working with something called VNDR, and they're with UPS,
Okay.
and they really give reasonable prices. Usually it's about $20 to $30 to ship, which isn't that bad.
And do you ship with dry ice?
I do, and that's another story in itself.
I would assume most of your shipping's overnight.
Overnight or 2 days.
Overnight
It just
or 2 days?
it just depends. Like right now, summer, I'll do overnight. Wintertime, you can get away with 2 days, but most of the time it's overnight. Yeah,
Certain day, specific day that you ship.
Monday and Tuesdays
Monday
only.
and Tuesdays only. So if you order on Wednesday, then you have to
Wait till the
wait
next.
till-
Yep, when you order.
Well,
Yep,
that makes sense, so it doesn't get left
right.
in a post
Right.
office over the weekend.
And then we do have my brothers. One goes to Houston once a month, and one goes and we have in Dallas. So we do have deliveries once a month in those locations.
So do you take them specifically to somebody's, like their
House,
houses?
to their
or
house.
Do you just say, hey, I'm here. Be
No, we deliver them to their house.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. That's great. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll deliver them to
a
their
lot of
house.
people that
Hmm.
So. And then, you said dry ice. Do you use like a custom box, or I mean, I'm sure it's.
So the
branded.
good thing is the dry ice. There's a dry ice facility right next to my butcher, and I usually I have to pick up meat every week from my butcher anyway. So I will pick it up on a Monday, and then I'll get the dry ice from this dry ice facility.
And then you put it in a cardboard box, or I guess you layer your box with something.
So I put it in a cardboard box, and then I have like a little thank you note on there, and then just a
Yeah,
cardboard
is
box, and then
Is your box branded?
no.
No. Okay.
So
I'm
that's
curious.
sometimes I feel like that is like. So what I'll do is I have a stamp.
Mhm.
We'll just stamp the boxes, because that's an added cost that sometimes we have to wait on.
That makes sense. The deal that you're working on is probably better than having to go straight to your local post office and say, I need to
Right.
overnight this. So,
Right. So the good thing is the UPS facility, it's only like 10 miles down the road, or my UPS driver will come here and pick it up.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep.
Okay, so what kind of do you carry insurance? What kind of insurance?
Yeah,
do
that's
you
the funniest thing. So my insurance is in 3 different separate insurance companies.
companies? Okay.
So Farm Bureau insures all my trailers, all my facility. They will not insure the meat itself
That's inside the trailer?
that's inside the trailer. They will not insure the meat,
Just the trailer.
just the trailer.
All right.
So my meat is insured by someone else, but it doesn't matter where the meat is.
All right, so it could be anywhere.
It could be shipping to XYZ.
okay.
So the meat is insured by a different company.
All right.
And then the business itself, like my employee business, is insured by someone else.
So 3 separate.
3 separate insurances because, and the hardest part was the meat insurance part because we're on a ranch and they were like diseases. And so that was the hardest part. I went through several insurance companies to get that done.
Found the right one.
Hmm.
So needless to say, you had just a little bit of trouble finding.
It was.
You had to just vet or go through quite.
Right, and it wasn't easy to find one.
Okay.
It wasn't easy to find one. Correct.
You said that. So what is it? A LLC? Is it a?
So we're an S corp.
An S corp. Okay.
The main reason why we're an S corp is because I don't know where this business is going. One thing I didn't mention is I've been working with the U.S. China Business Council.
Wow.
So I'm actually going to China for the month of June.
Wow. That's awesome.
And I am trying to get my product into China. So over Christmas vacation, the Chinese market actually came to the ranch.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I actually literally threw the red carpet out. I served them 7 different dishes. And now I'm working so we're working with Marriott China. And I'm working right now in 2025 to get 1 month out of one of the Marriotts in China.
Wow.
So now I'm going to China in June. They're having their yearly ag conference there. So they're actually sponsoring me to go over in June to meet with all the different chefs and everything to see if I can get my product there.
Oh, that'd be so great.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that. We'll see how it goes.
That is super exciting.
Because right now they're really not taking American meat.
No.
They're taking in Australia, and there's a whole
Yeah.
another story about that one. But yeah,
That's amazing.
I'm excited about that.
But let's talk a little bit about customers. We talked about your subscription program, so I'm assuming you have quite a bit of repeat customers.
Correct.
How does your I guess your customer retention is pretty good then, right?
So it's twofold. Our customer number one at the farmers market is amazing. I think each year we've done 100% more. We've been doing it for 4 years, every month to month. So there we get customers that come weekly for their weekly meal plan. Online, we have the subscription-based ones, and then we have those that still do the half cow, quarter cow, eighth of a cow. So the half cow, we get those customers that come yearly. And then I do all the way to an eighth of a cow.
Okay.
We get those customers that come quarterly and do eighth of a cow. We'll always send messages out that say, hey, you ordered here, are you interested? So a lot of time it's reminder messages that we have to constantly send out. The good thing is the website now has it where when you customize your website, they will automatically do it for you.
So you're reaching customers for the farmers market, you have your website, you have your subscription base, and then you're personally delivering meat in locations as well.
Correct.
That's wow. So
Correct.
who does you do the farm?
So I have an awesome team.
I'm about to say, I don't think you
I
do the
have
farmer's market.
when I say I have an awesome team, I have 5 employees.
Wow, that's awesome.
I have 5 employees. A lot of it is helped, and I'll be honest, having these larger contracts allows me to bring people on to make these fillers. I have 2 people that come in and do fulfillment every Monday and Tuesday, and then I have one lady that's strictly online all the time communicating with customers. And I have one person that helps with the marketing side of it, and she's the liaison. That some things we can do marketing in-house, some things I need to do in my external marketing team.
Okay.
Yes, so
But when you first started, you were doing
I was doing
all of that,
everything.
okay.
And then I just realized if I'm going to grow,
You have to have
you're going to have to take your profit and put it into marketing. That's the first thing I would say is take your profit and put it into marketing.
That's perfect, because my next question is, what's one thing you wish you knew starting out in the business?
It's marketing, and it's really not piecing together a website.
Okay.
Because easy use of a website really brings customers back. When they're confused on a website, they're going to leave that website immediately and not come back.
And not come back.
And making everything clickable, don't make them right. They want to use a mouse or they want to use their finger on their phone to order everything. And that's one thing I would say.
What's one of the hardest things you had to endure when starting your business?
Knowing how many cattle to process. I would run out of meat, as everyone knows, all the time, be left with just ground beef, and how was I going to do ground beef? Really figuring that out. And it's still hard to this day to figure out the high peaks and the low peaks. I keep probably abundance of inventory now. Just because I don't know. I don't want to run out.
Right, you don't want to run out. Is there any other piece of advice you'd want to give to someone interested in starting a business like this? I know you have a couple of ways your business
Get a
is going.
team. Don't try to do it on your own. I was blessed enough that my brothers wanted to be part of this, and I'm glad they do because I feel like they come to the ranch more often now because they want to see the cattle, they want to see the meat, they want to see everything. And they'll come and be like, I'm going to Houston, I'll come by and pick up all the meat for the subscriptions. So having that team within, a lot of times it's families that are doing it. And you can't do it alone without the support of either siblings or someone else within the family to get started before you can hire people. It's a consumer concern. That is one of the things that consumers are really getting educated by. And I tell them genetics is the first stage, but nutrition is more important than just genetics. So having those two conversations, because they'll be like, I want 100% Angus. Yeah, that's good, but you can almost get the same thing with the hybrid vigor of a cross of an Angus. So having those kind of, I'm not certified Angus, but this, let me tell you about my genetics and how nutrition helps give you that same look as a certified Angus.
So I'm thinking you have a pretty great nutrition plan.
I do. So I use livestock nutrition for all my feed resources, and we buy a lot right here from local through Livestock Nutrition. And their nutritionist comes by and checks my silage and tells me what percentage I need to put of silage and feed. So we do that quarterly.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's the key with us. And then we have a big mixer that will mix it, and we'll weigh how much the silage weighs and how much moisture's in it. So you have to really have that equation down pat if you're really trying to feed them to a point of getting them to that high choice type.
Right, because if your nutrition isn't on par, then you're not going to get the outcome when it comes to slaughter time that you
And that's the key thing we have to realize when we want consistency. My main thing is I want my consumer to taste from the first day they bought from me to today.
Right.
That it's the same steak, and nutrition is a huge part of that. So I would say before you get into this meat business, make sure you have the genetics, but sometimes genetics, I've raised Brahman cattle that have been high choice. It's all about the nutrition that you have put in there. It's very key before we even think about even getting into this business, because a lot of people are like, oh, I have a lot of grass. Even when it comes to grass, cattle taste different on different grasses.
Yes, they do.
That's why I'm not 100% grass-fed, because I can't keep that consistent taste on grass. But I can with my silage and my feed. And that's one thing we have to realize with whatever aspect we are, being that niche market, that you find that consistent nutrition for your product.